success stories told by the people who live them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the Hitstreak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and today joining me all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, I've got the founder of Powersoul, the Ultimate Happy Hour, and the co-host of the She's So Right show, which is a podcast and radio show on the Patriot 960 AM channel. I've got certified Christian life coach, Brandie Barclay. Brandie, thanks so much for hanging with me today, girl.
Thank you, Nick. I'm so excited to be here, and we have so many cool people in common that I've followed you a little bit. I'm checking your stuff out. I think we're very like-minded. I think we're going to have a blast today. So super excited. Thanks for having me.
100%. Well, I am equally as excited, and all the people that we have in common, I love those people. They're such amazing people. You know what I mean?
They really are. They're no joke.
So that is right. They're crazy successful, crazy driven, and crazy good, all at the same time.
They are. It's not a bad crowd to hang out with.
No, and I say it all the time. Who you hang out with is so important. As a parent, like if your kid hangs out with somebody that's not going to be a good influence, you say don't hang out with that person. Yet as adults, for whatever reason, we don't do that.
Yeah, I think people get stuck in obligation and history and things that keep people trapped in something that used to be comfortable and used to be a blessing maybe for a minute, and they kind of cling on and don't know when to let go. That's kind of a big deal.
You know, I've never thought of it from that perspective. I mean, we hadn't even got past the intro, and she's adding hits all over the place over here. Trapped in obligation. That's so true, because we feel obligated to do all these things, and that's what good people do, is that they follow through for other people, right? Oh, man, that's so powerful.
You said something profound. You said good people. And I think that, you know, as a Christian and as a woman, we're kind of trained and taught to be good, you please. And you know, I really had to have a massive shift there, because pursuing God's call in your life, pursuing your real divine purpose, takes really focusing on the audience of one, and that's God. And if you're really trying to please everyone, you're going to miss that. And to me, it was so important to me to not miss that I had to start disappointing people a little bit.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And, you know, it's literally at church yesterday, Pastor Josh said something that was super powerful. He said that your feelings are not always the truth.
Ooh, they're hardly ever the truth.
That's right.
I mean, our feelings are fickle. I think if we follow our feelings, we're going to end up in a ditch. Quite quickly. That's right.
He also said that. Oh, absolutely. He also said that. He said, hurt people.
Very true. Very true. And so when you're healing and, you know, getting to be that best person that you can be, and you've been maybe hanging out with other hurt people, there's a lot that comes with that.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's pretty important to know who you are, to know your identity, and to know what you want, and lead.
Well, they do say that misery loves company, right? That's that old saying.
It really does. It really does. I mean, look around.
That's right.
Look at the world.
That's right. That's right. They call it news, and there's two sides to that. There's good news too, and we sure could use some more of that, couldn't we?
Yeah, that's why this is such a great forum, because we're able to do that.
Well, let's get right into it, because like you have, I love your brand and the play on words. So my first question for you, for all of my listeners, is what is Powersoul?
Oh, okay. So I spent 20 years in the aesthetic industry, beauty world. And I always say I was like a bartender with Botox. I got to hear all of the insecurities and problems in women's lives. And I know that was by no mistake of God to put me in that environment for years and years and years. And what ended up happening about 5 years ago is God spoke to me. I mean, it was almost audible. It was that profound. And I was at a motivational conference or team building thing. And I was watching like 300 women sit on the edge of their seat, waiting for something powerful, waiting for something tangible that they could take for their life. And I went to the restroom, and I didn't have a voice that day, which is kind of a bummer when you're trying to network and you have no voice. Right. It was like God wanted me to shut up for once, and he knew he had to, take my voice away. So I'm actually in the restroom on break, and he said, Brandie, there's 300 women on the edge of their seat waiting for power, and they're leaving me out. And so it's like I made this deal with God that day. I'm going to do what you want me to do, and I'm not going to leave you out. And he said, it's time to use your voice. He's like, how does it feel to not have your voice today? And I'm like, hate it. And he goes, it's time to use your voice for me. And so I really submitted myself to that. And it took about 9 months to creep out of my career that I thought I'd be in forever. Yep. And start reinventing who I was on this planet, which was a whole thing all itself. And so I started something called Powersoul, because that was kind of the word from him, power for your soul. And in the middle of COVID and lockdowns, I had at that point become a life coach. I had become certified so that, had a little street cred. And I was talking to some of my clients. They were home, they were isolated, they're homeschooling their kids for the first time, they're hating life. And everything in me was that we were not supposed to be divided. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to create for them what I would want. When my kids were little, I wanted a tequila with my girlfriends is what I really wanted. And so I'm like, I'm going to have tacos, margaritas, and I'm going to give them an encouragement. It was like the Lord goes, what do you want? And how can you include me in that? And women want camaraderie and they want to vent, but really what they need is to be inspired, encouraged, and be surrounded with other people that can be in the same place. And so that's what we started doing. That's what Powersoul is. So it's my life coaching, my private life coaching, and the events that are Powersoul Clubhouse. And it grew from 3 women to about 400 in a couple of years.
Wow. Yeah. So, well, first of all, what were you doing before?
So I was doing beauty treatments for 20 years. That's what I did. And I loved it. I was really, really good at it. Like I was known for that. So when I left it, it was kind of a big deal. I left a lot of money. I left what the world would consider my identity. And thank God I have an amazing husband who caught the vision too. And I think that was obviously a God thing. And it was like I came home and I was trying to just follow God day by day. And honestly, I felt a little lost. And I think a lot of people feel lost when we're called into an unknown place. That's right. And it felt very lost. And I felt lost for a couple of years, but I was like, okay, I'm just going to every day ask God what to do and do it. And when I started to ask him for help, he started to send me all the right people. I ended up with a book publisher, a life coach of my own, a training course to become certified. And then this was all before this whole political scene. And I really didn't understand or see at all that I was going to be a political voice at all. That was never my intention. But what was happening is in the midst of this shutdown and having women come gather in my home, we couldn't help but talk about it. Like, how do you not talk about what's happening in the world? And so I consulted God and said, okay, am I just getting political because this is what I want? Or is this something you want me to tackle? That's right. And I always take a walk with God where I talk and then I listen. And I'm walking and I'm getting nothing. And I'm like, okay. And then on that last bend, he said, if they're not for you right now, they're against you. And I want you to talk about these things. And so I got a little pushback, but not a lot. And it became more of a strengthening of women to be bold and courageous in their faith and step up against all the things coming at them and their children. Gotcha. So, well, first of all, you said something that was really important. And because you left something that was comfortable, that you were considered successful in, right?
like, tell me how that conversation went, because I'm fortunate to have the most amazing wife on the planet, and the fact that anytime I have this crazy idea, not one time has she ever looked at me and said I was crazy. She may have thought it, but she didn't say it. And she's always supported me. And biggest thing is just like, sometimes I just need a sounding board, somebody to help me talk through stuff. And she knows what buttons to push and when to push them, and all the right reasons. So for me, having like we wouldn't be sitting in the studio talking today if it wasn't for her listening to my crazy idea and helping me bring that vision to fruition. Right. So tell me about, like, how did that conversation go when you looked at your husband and you're like, hey, I think I'm ready to start over.
It was, I feel the same way you do. I wouldn't be sitting here either if my husband is not completely my biggest fan in the world. We have a great marriage and partnership. We've been together 25 years, and we've had our moments, and we've rode the wave, and we've rode the roller coaster. And he, I believe that the beautiful part is he innately trusts me, that if I am saying something that God is putting on my heart, he trusts that. And so that I think is a huge thing. And also his personal faith is, hey, if God's telling you something, I better not say no.
That's right.
But that day when I came home from that event, it was such an impactful moment that it's like he could see it on me. Gotcha. I didn't have much of a voice to talk. And so I was crying. I was like crying and blubbering and saying, this is what happened. And he gave me a whole vision. And the vision that he'd given me was actually an affirmation of 20 years prior, where he told me, you're going to go talk to you're going to speak in front of thousands of people. And I always say, that's just not something you go and tell people. You tell the two people that won't break up with you, your husband and your mom. It's like, right. I told two people that can't break up with me that if they thought I'm crazy, they have to deal. And I never told another soul. And it was like, God reminded me of that vision and said, now it's time. And so I look back at that 20 years in beauty, and I realized that was training ground for what I'm doing now. And I believe that's how God, it's kind of that wax on, wax off, like, what am I doing? And he was preparing me all along to be able to speak into the hearts and minds of women and really understand what's happening behind, the facade of so-called beauty.
It's amazing how I found this amazing clip of this young man. I have no idea who he is. And I showed it to the team of especially the newer agents that we're training, and because like anytime you try something new, it's uncomfortable to grow. It's painful. That's why they call them growing pains, right?
Amen.
But this young man, he started off. He basically, and I'm going to butcher it, but he said, I bought a new pair of shoes because I needed them. But basically, the moral of the story is he said, and I put them on and they weren't comfortable. The old ones were comfortable, but they couldn't get me where I was going. They couldn't get me to the destination where I needed to go. So, but he's like, but it's crazy. The longer I wore those new shoes, the more comfortable they became, and they got me to where I needed to go. And he was like, so, put on those new shoes. And it's such a elementary, simple, yet profound, situation that's so relevant in everything that you do in life that is new. And if you want something different, like, change is required, and you can't change, or you can't grow without change,
Right.
And that's something that is so lost for whatever reason, we run to comfort, not to discomfort, So
yes.
So you said the first couple of years were rough, right? They weren't, so true or false? You started this thing, you said, husband, this is what I'm going to do. And the very next day you had this raving successful company.
No, I actually, even though the Lord was getting me ready to leave my job, and it was like, I knew it was coming, but it, kind of like, again, I think anytime where God puts something on our heart, or there's a new thing, he knows that we're a work in progress, and he gives us such grace and mercy through that process to become. And it was a becoming of a new that it was like the next step in life. And there was a becoming and a process and a loneliness and very much a wilderness that I think that's why he shows us what wilderness looked like in the Bible, when it feels lonely and desolate and lost. And it's really, to me, that so vital for becoming strong in him, to know when everything else is stripped away, you still have everything you need. And so, half of our income is gone. My husband can pay the bills, but we were not vacationing and I was not shopping, which was probably God's plan. And and I'm home and I'm digging into what he's telling me, and I'm spending a lot of time alone, and I'm confusing a lot of people. Like, what? You quit your job with free laser and Botox to be a Christian? What? And now you're a preacher? Okay, weirdo.
Yeah.
What is and so that had a lot to do with it too, with I have to tune out what other people think of me. And that was very hard, because even the people close to me that loved me and always supported me thought I was cuckoo. And kind of like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are that now you're going to be the so-called voice for Christ or whatever? Yeah. And I really had to just know that I knew that what I had heard was real, that the tug on my heart was real, and I did not want to miss what he had, because I was too afraid of what people thought. I was too afraid of losing money. I was more afraid of losing what he had for me. And I think that was the drive of, I am standing firm. I'm standing still until he tells me to move. And when he tells me to move, I'm moving. Yeah. And everything that's happened since then has been nothing short of miraculous.
That's right. Well, it's, people question that God's plan a lot when bad things happen. But like, if everything was easy, nothing would be worth it. Like, that's, there wouldn't be good without evil. There wouldn't be light without dark. There has to be another side to balance it and to recognize it, So what makes what they say it all the time. Kobe Bryant said practice was the gift of that, it wasn't the championship, it was the practice, because of all the practice that he did to get that, the work.
Yes.
You know?
If I hadn't been lonely, if I hadn't had to dig in, if I hadn't had, again, how do I ever have compassion and speak into someone's loneliness or pain or encourage them if I don't know what discouragement looks like? Yes. How do I know?
That's right. And again, if you said something that was totally a total 180 from what you've been doing before, and everybody was just looked at you and said, "Hey, that sounds like a great idea," then it wouldn't be it wouldn't be worth it when later they're like, "Hey, you were right. Hey, you were right."
Yeah, and I really believe that God wants us to decide whose voice is more important. I think that it's a decision. I think he wants us to make that decision. I think he's calling us off the fence into what matters most to you. Opinions of people or me.
So check it out. I've got right here that the Powersoul Experience is a large Christian conservative women's community in Arizona that you created to strengthen women through biblical truth and empower intolerance of government overreach, right? So I think it was Ronald Reagan that said the 9 scariest words that any person could hear were, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." I got it right.
Yep.
That was all 9, right? Well, the government's here to protect those things, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I think that, again, if you're not under a rock right now, you're seeing what that looks like when the government wants to help out too much.
Well, the greatest thing about this country is if you want something bad enough and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get it, you can have it. And that's what the government is protecting that for me. That's,
the opportunity. Exactly.
That's right. The opportunity. That's the key.
Opportunity is everywhere.
That's the key. So that's how you got into to life coaching. Tell me about the She's So Right show, because that is a ball, man. Like, that is, you guys are having all kinds, way too much fun on that sucker.
We are having too much fun. So I have a really spicy co-host. I'm kind of like wallpaper compared to my co-host Lindsey Graham. She was a salon owner in Oregon, and during COVID, she was trying to honor the 2-week lockdown. Well, after that, she was like, I have to make money. I have to support my family, and so do my stylist. And she opened against Kate Brown's orders. And then they threatened her every day. They threatened her with fines. They threatened to take her children away. They sent CPS to her house. Antifa came to burn down her building. And she made a call to arms to patriots, and 300 patriots came down and held the line downtown and kept Salem, Oregon from burning. And she ended up becoming a national figure and story. And she moved to Arizona. And at the very first event she was at, we met. And about a year later, she called me to join her on a show in Dallas that was a produced show. And I said, and I was already on the radio here in Arizona on Faith Talk. I had my own show called the Powersoul Show. And I thought, that might be hard to travel to Dallas all the time. Why don't we try to do it in Arizona? And we teamed up, and our, I guess tagline is two conservative women speaking up for what's right, led by Christ to speak up for what's right. And we're clinging to our Bibles and guns. I'm kind of the Bible thumper. She's the gun toting badass, I guess.
There you go.
And we're having a lot of fun. I mean, we talk faith, freedom, and fun because, you can go and listen to the news. You can go listen to the heavy hitter commentators. We are kind of like real chicks who are bringing the news as, like stories, but we're also laughing because if we don't laugh right now, we'll cry. And so we bring some humor, we bring some fun. We have some great guests, and it's really about empowering the listener with what's going on. What can they do? Because I think feeling helpless is a huge problem right now. And having fun and making light and being a little entertaining, there's a lot of things you can put in your ears. So we want to also have fun.
Why is it that you think, because you hit the nail on the head when you said a lot of people feel helpless, like literally the people that my wife and I work with, especially if they're launching a real estate or insurance agency, they come in to do something about it, but usually they felt helpless. And if they were happy where they were, they wouldn't be coming to us and working with this, right? They would still be doing what they were doing. So that's the one thing I know when people come interview with us is you're not happy where you're at, right? So we start right there. And like, what does happiness look like for you? So what is it that has so many people feeling helpless, do you think?
I believe it's that when you spend so much time on a device in your hand that's showing you every problem in the world, all over the world, how can you not feel somewhat helpless when that's consuming?
It's an uncontrolled amount too. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And,
that's right.
I think if you're thinking, I can't do enough, I can't change enough, so I'm just going to go back to bed or just go hide at work and go to and fro and not feel like I have any hope that I can make a difference, I think that causes this helplessness. And I believe that that's exactly what the enemy wants us to feel like. I think he wants us to feel like we can't do enough, so why do anything at all? And it's a paralyzing feeling. And so what I've learned, and through some amazing mentors and speakers of my own, is this country was founded on men or small communities that were like a small community with the church that just simply said, not our church, not our school, not my house. And I always say, for women especially, or I shouldn't say that, but I always think of the dinner table and how we've lost the dinner table conversations and phones away and talking about the day. And I always think, we want to go out and change the world, but we're sitting on this little device wishing we could change the world. And we've got our children at the table that are at school all day long, getting the world from someone else's view, being indoctrinated 7 hours a day. And really, that's our territory. That's the God-given territory is our children, our home, our table, their bed, our marriage, our what we can do at our school, what we can do at our church. And we're giving up our territory, holding these devices, wishing we could change the world, when we have a world that we can be changing. God has given us all space to change the world.
I have my wife and I have 2 kids. Ethan will be 13 on July 6th. It's a couple weeks from now. By the time this airs, that will all be in the past. And then our daughter she turned 1 in April of this year.
I was snooping on your page. They're so cute.
My wife and mother, they tend to them the most, but they make, especially my wife, she makes beautiful, happy babies. And, but it is that I say it a lot. You hear from your parents and everybody else from experience about, all the things that's come along with being a parent. The greatest gift that was ever given to me, I think that's given to anybody is a child. And I
agree.
I'll never forget when, I grew up a lot in my 30s. I grew up, what I lacked for growing up, and especially in my 20s, I grew up in my 30s, and that was because of my son was there. And I've told this story before, but I'll never forget when I had 2 experiences that really changed me. For the first one was when I had one of my meltdowns back in the day, and for whatever reason, the look on their face, I was able to see what I looked like from their perspective. And I was absolutely ashamed and disgusted with what I saw. And then not long after that, my son had an episode. He acted just like I did, like he saw me do. And I got to see it from straight. I was like, oh my God, he just gave me a great gift. I see how foolish and ridiculous that I looked by acting like that. So literally being a parent made me level up as a human being, made me level up to be the person that I was raised to be, with the values and everything else, and just how you treat people. Having children has been the greatest thing. And now, our daughter, we tried for the better part of a decade, and we're literally,
oh wow,
we were cashing out and being like, well, it's not in our cards for us. We're already making plans for. I was making plans for procedures to go ahead and make sure that nothing happened too late. We were thinking about adoption, all that stuff. And we're actually going to Brad's, to be on Brad Lee's Dropping Bombs podcast. We're in the hotel the day we shoot it. And that's when my wife is like, I don't feel so good. And that was the day we found out and it was 2 weeks before her 40th birthday, which that was the cutoff.
Wow. How awesome is that?
And
that is awesome.
I'm telling you all that to
She's
tell
adorable.
You. Oh, she is. And I tell you, it's funny because with my son, I'm pretty tough on him. But with her, she'll do something. I'll just look at her and I'm like, you going to handle that? Because I'm not doing it.
Oh.
She gets what she wants.
You know what? My husband is, oh my gosh, my girls know that they are daddy's girls. I mean, I have a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old.
Wait a minute. You have what?
Yep. My kids are grown. So,
that's how old you look.
Thank you. See, oh, good. All the skincare is paying off. No, I'll be 49 in a couple months.
No.
And
say that. Yes, say that again.
I promise. I'm a late bloomer, I guess. But my husband,
congratulations.
I was always a bad guy. I was always bad cop because he couldn't be mad at him for too long.
49 years old. That's incredible, man. Congratulations. So, and how long have you been doing Powersoul? How long have you? When did you found that?
Oh gosh, man. I guess it's been about. I lose track of time. I swear I'm in a time warp. 4 or 5 years is when the vision came.
So you did all this in your 40s.
Yes, I did.
See, folks, it's never too late, right?
It's never too late. In fact, I would never go back. I feel like at this age I think that's also one of the things that, I have 50 looking at me right now, so it's kind of time is of the essence. We get one shot to journey through this life and do what we're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do it.
I heard a great thing the other day. It said every person lives twice. They get 2 lives. And
oh yeah, I love that.
And the second one begins the moment they realize they only have one.
That's right. I think at 40 years old, I had a little bit of that. I've been living for everyone else. And I think that this is, as a parent, yes, we want to do for our kids. We want to be, that's our calling. But I was still doing things that I was still making every weekend birthday party for the family. I was making sure my mom was okay, my dad was okay, my sisters were okay, my friends were, and it really wasn't my job. And I had to come to grips with the fact that, you know what, I'm really not the savior. I need to like get over myself and realize that I really need to have an order, the divine order of God, which is him and my marriage and my children, my health, my business. And I was really, all of that was suffering because I thought I needed to be everybody's everything. And what a lie that is. And how destructive it was to my own life. And I was resentful, I was exhausted, and I really hit a wall at around 39, 40, and I just couldn't do it anymore, which was really a blessing. Because the way that God gave me a word picture about it, because I learned that way. I must be very elementary. But he gives me these awesome pictures, and it's like there's so many believers that are saved and they're going to heaven, he showed me this picture of a swimming pool. And he's like, it's kind of like a dad. When you were teaching your son to swim, you'd stand in the pool and want him to jump all into you. And he's petrified, right? And you're like talking him off the ledge. And even when he decides to jump in, our nature as fearful people is to jump in and still grab the side and still try to hold on ourselves. Yeah. And like almost crack our head on the corner rather than just fully abandon jumping into the life that God has. And he showed me that when you're holding on so tight, trying to micromanage your life, and you're really struggling to do it all yourself and all your way, and some have somewhat control, thinking, okay, my Father's here in case I've drowned, but I got this. Mm-hmm. I had to let go at about 40 years old. Like, I can't do this by myself. I actually do need to surrender all these things that I think I can do and really go in and let God be God. And that's when my life felt like it really started, like this full abandonment of the experience of the real adventure in him, the water, it's like, don't miss out on what he has because you think that you're somehow managing things that you shouldn't be managing. And so when I let go, it was really because I was completely exhausted and couldn't hang on anymore. And it took me on a wild ride, and it was a horrible experience, but one of probably the most profound, because I realized there's a difference in riding life with God, with holding on white knuckling, or in abandonment, enjoying yourself. And I think that there's too many people that say they believe in God, but they are literally white knuckling through life. That is not his intention. And it's so much better when you aren't doing that.
So, if you wake up every single day and you hate what you're doing, you're not using your God-given gifts. You're not doing what you're put here to do, right? But at the same time, some people would look at you and be like, well, you wasted 20 years doing something you weren't supposed to do. But at the same time, you wouldn't appreciate what you have today if you hadn't gone through that, right? Too. And how many lessons did you learn about, like, how successful could you be operating the way you are and doing all these things if you didn't have all those business lessons that you learned along the way for the first 20 years, So like you were able to take what you did. So like, some people could say because I didn't make it to the big leagues as a professional baseball player that was a waste of time. Yet there's been I've had so many great interviews and questions and credibility on the ball field as a coach for my son's team and everything else, and contacts. And I mean, gosh, that was those 6 years were one of the greatest gifts of life for me. And then we had another run of 6 years in the hospitality industry as nightclub and restaurant owners. And some people would say that was a waste, but like all those lessons that we learned, we wouldn't be doing what we are today as well if we hadn't gone through all that.
I don't look at any of it as a waste. None of it at all. I learned so much. I learned so many invaluable things. I always, again, go back to all things work out for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. All of those things were part of the process refining me for my calling. And you know what? And I had a different calling and a different season at that time. Just like you and your wife are in a season with young children. That's a season of life. Your dream is different right now. Your calling is different right now. And now my kids are grown. The seasons change, dreams change. And I would be honestly, boredom to me is like death, the kiss of death. Some people, that's a comfort zone. To me, it's like the minute I'm bored, I want to die. So God, he's a creative God too. And I'm a creative person. And I think if I'm not always learning and growing and moving and expanding, stagnant living to me is not inviting. And I don't believe life with God is stagnant. I think he's always, again, each season has a different dream. And at that season, I was making a lot of money, was able to do a lot of cool stuff with my kids, take them on really great trips, contribute to my house. And and be around a lot of amazing women and a lot of amazing friends. And so there's nothing about that I regret, nothing.
Well, it's almost like it was your training. It was a 20-year training program.
1,000%. I would not be where I am. Right.
That's right. You mentioned seasons before too, and that's such a great, especially as a business owner. Here in Nashville, we're fortunate not just in some places it's the weather doesn't change, so seasons are based around holidays and feelings and gatherings and stuff.
Oh, we're
like
in Arizona.
That.
I get it.
So here in Nashville, we're lucky that we get all 4 seasons. Now spring and fall might only be a couple weeks these days. But we, it snows here and it's over 100 degrees here all in the same 365 days. And it's cool because we use that. We talk about that a lot when we're talking about our team. You don't walk outside and realize that it's 30 degrees outside. You figured that out before you put your clothes on and walked out. At least somewhat productive and successful people do.
Right.
So there's a certain level of planning that most people don't do. There's a certain amount of anticipation that goes into winning. And seasons are a great way, like, to just understand that, like, how the world works and the gifts of just being here, how literally, like, something that you can use on a daily basis to grow is something as just as simple as, like, the seasons.
Yeah. And I think too, I was very guilty of kind of always, when I was younger, dreaming outside my season. So, which can cause a lot of pain. If you're at home with little babies and you're dreaming of, retirement, you're going to have a problem. Dream in your season. What's the dream for that season? And so sometimes I think we can get out ahead of things and miss the joy of today. And again, I think that's another thing the enemy tries to keep us always in another day, always in another place, always in another season, always looking ahead. I think entrepreneurial minds and spirits do that a lot because we're visionary people and we are action people. And so I think sometimes that can be a downfall where we're not enjoying where we are and the blessing of what's happening now and having that gratitude of right now, what's going right, what's working, and what am I learning? And, again, I think to always be ahead of it, you're missing today. So I'm glad that I learned that too, so that I could enjoy those seasons with my kids and be there, be present. Yeah,
it's a combination of both for sure. I know living in the moment is something that I've always struggled with because I'm always looking forward and looking ahead, and especially when you are a driven person and you have big ambitions and big goals and big dreams, and that's something that my wife still works with me on a daily basis on, of living in the moment, and it's amazing how you can do that. And I think that's the beautiful thing about some of the holiday seasons and the seasons is because you can, once you have kids and you get to a certain age, life goes fast. It speeds up as you go, right? So because you get busy and you don't have time to remember anything. So I think if it wasn't for seasons, I don't know if I'd remember anything from last year. You know what I mean? But I could say, I remember Christmas. I remember Halloween.
It's true. It's true. And I think that's God's creativity is, even seasons change because I don't think anything about him, the Lord, our God, is boring. And I believe that so much of faith has become really boring and in a box and stifling creativity and that's why I think
Trapped in obligation. You said it earlier.
Trapped in obligation and trapped in maybe old teaching or the way things, I don't know, should be or should look. And I love that God is creative. I love that he brings, okay, everyone's sick of summer. He brings something new to us.
Yeah.
I think it's a good father. He wants us to always have joy and anticipation, healthy anticipation, but not always being miserable where we are anticipating it's going to always be better on you somewhere else.
It's fantastic. Absolutely. So you talked a lot about overcoming other people's opinions, and you talked a little bit about the pushback from going into a new career. Because you have been kind of thrust into the spotlight from the political sense. Talk to me about the kind of like the pushback that you might have felt, because like this is hard. Like as a parent, here's where I'm going with this. As a parent, especially if this is relevant to our young entrepreneurs. The parent's job is to protect, right? They want to protect. So I can't tell you how many times the 26, 27-year-old, they're not a kid anymore, but in life
right.
They are. They're inexperienced. So they come in and they're like, they want to do something, they dream big, they want to start their career or whatever. Maybe they want to start a company, and they'll go home and their parents will almost talk them out of it because it's not, there's no safety net. There's no guaranteed income.
Yes.
And all they're saying when they say that is like, I don't believe in you. I don't believe you can be successful, when all that young person needs is real support, which is like, hey man, like, I mean, you can do anything you want to do. We've all been told that growing up, right? Yep. As kids, yet the moment we make a decision to do that, or they make a decision to do that, the parents are like, wow, are you sure? What if?
Yeah.
What if? And that's, and like, that's one of the hardest things to do. So, everybody deals with it, from family, close friends. And I've been roasted for saying, it's out of context always, but like, who you hang out with is who you are and what you're going to be, right? So if everybody you hang out with makes a certain amount of money, I bet you that's what you make. If everybody you hang out with has a certain set of values, I bet those are your values, right. So, and it's hard understanding as parents, if a kid's a bad influence, we say, don't hang out with that person, but we don't do that we don't audit that as adults. We talk about that a lot. Like, you probably got a lot of pushback the moment you were thrust into the political scene. Like, how did you overcome that?
Yeah. Again, I think of that training ground of just really trusting that inner voice, and really trusting, and I don't mean self, I mean discerning. There's always three voices. There's your own thoughts. There's the voice, if you're a believer, there's the voice of God, the Holy Spirit prompting you, and there's the voice of the enemy, discouraging, shaming, condemning
like the cartoons
you.
With the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other.
Absolutely the truth.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like I had to decide again, and I think this is a constant decision that we make. Am I going to go all in on what I believe and who I believe God is calling me to be and the voice he's calling me to have? Or am I going to not be that person? I'm going to bow down to the opinions of people. Because when does that end? Mm-hmm. And I had to decide, I might lose a couple great chicks that don't want to come to my event anymore because I'm saying things that maybe ruffle their feathers. And I thought, you know what? I'm willing to do that because my boldness is not because I believe so highly of my own thinking. My boldness comes from the fact that I believe so much in God's word that I bow to that. I'm not thinking that I'm so brilliant that you have to listen to me. I'm thinking the mastermind of all masters has called me to be a voice, and he's going to be my master. And my voice will have to submit to his. And when we start to get political, I even hate the word political, because what I look at is there's moral issues, there's government issues, but if you care about people, genuinely care about people, policy affects people. Mm-hmm. And so I care about the policies that affect people.
Gotcha.
So I talk about that, and I talk about how again, if God is God is God, and he truly is on the throne, and we truly are following him and saying, I love you first and I love people second, I have to care about the policies that are hurting people. And I do. And so I had to submit that. And you know what? I get pushback, and I'm going to get pushback. And I think anybody with any voice at all is going to have pushback unless they really don't have a voice. They're just flailing in the wind and not saying anything. So again, I think Winston Churchill said, if you have enemies, good, you stood up for something once in your life. I know I butchered that a little bit, but I am not concerned with that. I can't be concerned with that.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
You definitely can't. You definitely can't. And it's, there's a, in the world of sports, when you see another team like imploding from the inside out, you're going to win. Because they're focused on whatever they got going on, and actually I'm their opponent, and they're not even looking at me, right? So we're going to win. Abraham Lincoln said, "A house divided will not stand," and that's usually like, even kids that get into trouble, if they do have both parents, most of the time both parents are fighting amongst themselves, and the kids are not being focused on or paid attention to. And that's why they're getting away with all that stuff, So I'm really far away from most of the politics stuff, because I care about, I just want to be around good news. I want to be around good people. I like successful stuff. I love the competition. I love the thrill of launching a business, of marketing, and all those things. But at the end of the day, I just want everything, like, we're at the bottom of the totem pole, and they say that crap rolls downstream, right? It comes downstream. So like, whoever's at the top, I need them to do a good job, because if they don't, everybody's going to feel it, me included, right? So,
right.
And
what I do, what I do is not necessarily everybody's calling. I understand that, and I'm okay with that. I have a problem when people are, I guess I'll be real transparent here. When we live in such a prosperous, beautiful place, the most prosperous country that's ever existed, and people don't value it enough to even vote or to consider what they're voting for. To me, that kind of apathy, I have an intolerance for, because there's people from all over the world that would love the opportunities we have. And I feel like that's not stewarding what God has blessed us with. And I think we are all responsible to steward what we have well, and be somewhat educated about what's happening. Doesn't mean you got to be a big mouth on the radio like me. I get that. But knowing that if like you said, it's all going to come downstream. And as a parent, as a leader of any kind, we have to, take what we can use, our vote or whatever that is, and use it for good. I think everything that we have been entrusted to us, again, God's never asking us for something we don't have, ever. He's asking us to use what's in our hands. And that is a gift that our forefathers paid the price for us to have.
Yeah.
Founding fathers. And it's a gift for us, and we should treat it as so.
I want to hear a little bit about, just because a lot of times there's a lot of great businesses, a lot of great organizations, a lot of great companies out there. And I'm so fascinated with the story that happened behind the scenes, not what you see out in the public eye, not when it's finished or even what the product is, but the development of it. Like when I see that great athlete out on the field, I want to, like, I'm intrigued by, like, I want to know what the training looked like, and the practice and the mindset. How did he get to that place? How did she get to that place? As a person that has been successful for going on 3 decades now, is that right? I mean, I still have a hard time saying that when I look at you, but like
5.
Oh my goodness. So, like, talk to me about the framework and the consistency and the mindset that it takes to overcome all the obstacles that come when you're launching your company, your product, your show. whatever that may be, because obviously there's always going to be the naysayers. That's how you know you're getting to enough people, because you're not, like, everybody has an opinion. I'm not for everybody. And
that's right.
There's bad reviews about Jesus Christ if you look him up. You know what I'm saying? So, and you know what? And he picked a group of guys, and one of those was bad, right? So, so
yeah, that's right.
Understanding all that, like, talk to me about the framework and on all the things that you overcame and stuff, because there's so many people starting companies, side hustles, and all that stuff now, and they see you and they say, she's big and she's doing it, and like, we all came from the same place of ground zero, right? So talk to me about ground zero and up. Talk to me about that journey.
Oh man, I listened. This is why I'm such a fan of great podcasters like you, because it is so valuable to put the right things in your ears, watch the right things, read the right things, almost immerse yourself in the things that are going to keep you on track. Because I know, for all you listeners, that if you're an entrepreneur, you know there's resistance around growth. There's resistance around change. There's resistance around pain. And, there's some things that always stand, kind of like things I hold on to, like, when you're having one of those discouraging days, it's like that holding onto the table legs, like, how do I stay in this game? And putting something really good in your ears, someone who is going to say, you know what, I've been in that place, hang on tight. And we have to have that. And I have to have that. And one of the things I think I remember listening to other mentors and teachers and podcasters was, it's almost like if there's resistance around it, it's good. The enemy isn't gonna the enemy doesn't want you to just be all you're supposed to be. He doesn't want you to go and grow this giant company and change lives and create wealth and all the things that you can go and really be a game changer. You think your enemy wants that? And what I like to think about when I think of the enemy, the ultimate enemy, the devil, is he doesn't play fair. He's a cheap shot. So you probably, all of your listeners, have been children who have had things that have happened that have caused them to be maybe insecure, or maybe not always believe in themselves. We all have that. We all have some. None of us are all there. Like, I have insecurities. I was nervous before I got on here with you. Why? Because that's just nature. That's our nature. It's the unknown, right? It's always the unknown. But you train yourself through that uncomfortable time. You stay uncomfortable long enough, it starts to get comfortable. And really not just that place, but the uncomfortable starts to be comfortable. And you start to acclimate to being uncomfortable. And that starts to be your new normal. And you start to get really good at the high dive. Like, okay, this is still scary. My stomach is still in knots. I'm still a little like, am I gonna crack my head? But I've done it enough now that I'm used to that feeling, and I know that I can get over it. And so it's just that constant training. Where did this come from? It came from me raising kids, being isolated and alone and feeling, why am I not like my mom? My mom was thrilled to go to the grocery store and do the laundry and make dinner for my dad. Why am I not that person? I wish I enjoyed this more. What I realized was, I'm not her. I'm very unique. I'm a social butterfly. It didn't mean I didn't love my children. It didn't mean I didn't love my home. I just knew I also needed an outlet. I needed to be around other people. And so I gave myself the grace to be myself and realized God knew what he was doing when he gave my kids to me. He knows my house is different than anyone else's. He knows my marriage is different than anyone else's. There's no one else I can compare that to in that thing. And that's really, we can look at mentors and be inspired or strengthened, but we also have to know no one is us. And God's gonna have his own way with us. And we gotta get comfortable being uncomfortable, and also kind of being comfortable being us.
That's right.
In that. So I don't know, that kind of sounded all around. I mean, like up and down all around.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Like,
I sat every day like when I didn't know the word of God, I sat there listening to someone that knew it.
Yeah.
And they gave it to me like baby food until I started to know it. It started to become a part of me. So again, listening to the right things and immersing yourself in the things that are going to keep you strong is so vital, because if you don't do that, you will not hang on.
So somebody who's incredibly important to me, somebody I call a mentor, a really good friend. He's relocated to California, so I get to see him rarely. His name is Roger Patton. He's actually going to be on the show here soon. And but I told a story about how my wife and I we recommitted to the church as a family and got married in the same day. Okay.
Wow.
And I told a story that was actually used as a clip, and like it was one of the most viral clips, one of the more viral clips that we've put out, and there was so many people arguing about this. Here's the story. I'm gonna tell it again, and again, the context is we got saved and married in the same day. That's very important, right? So what happened was,
that's awesome.
What happened was we had decided we were going to recommit to the church. And I had secretly gone, so my son was, I think 3 at the time, or going to be turning 4. And the reason my wife and I didn't get married is because we couldn't afford to get married. And honestly, I don't know if I was anybody that she would want to marry anyways. But we did have a son, and we were working on stuff. So when we had made that to join the church, recommit, and all that stuff, I'd secretly gone to Roger and said, hey, like, I want to marry this girl. And he was like, like, does she know? And I'm like, well, we're engaged. We've been engaged since before Ethan was born. We couldn't afford to do it. I'd like to do it today or on that day. And he was like, are you sure, man? Like, what if? And I was like, we're doing it. So we did that. And then I had pre-recorded a thing that they played over the speakers right after we had done recommitted, and everybody, they welcome to the church, Nick and Rand and Hyder. Then all of a sudden this thing played, and it was me basically re-proposing to my wife. And then Roger looked at her and he said, I think he just asked you to marry him. And she said, well, yeah. And he said, we're going to do this right here. So we did it.
Cool.
So, at the end, this is the part where people got pissed. At the end, they say, ladies and gentlemen, I now pronounce Mr. and Miss Nick Hyder, right? And then you walk down the center aisle. Well, somehow he beat us to the front. I don't know. I still don't know how he did. He was behind us when we left, and he was waiting on us at the front when we did it. And we had a straight line, and he didn't. So I still don't know how that happened. But we got there, and he met us at the doors, and he said, congratulations, guys. I'm so happy for you. But there's something that you need to hear. He said, there's 2 sides to this story. And you just made a move towards the side of the good. The bad is not happy that you just made this decision. It's going to try to do everything it can to pull you back. So be prepared. Everything that can go wrong is going to go wrong. Your cards are going to break down. Things are going to happen. People are going to emerge in life that shouldn't be in your life to try to draw you back. And that's the part that everybody got so upset about, is like, why would a preacher say that to somebody that just got married? Well, I understand that. But remember, we had just recommitted our life to the church at that moment too, which is what he was referencing, not just that. So,
yes.
But that's so true, because like people will make the decision. I've always wanted to start my own business. I'm finally taking the leap, and their car breaks down the very next week. Somebody gets sick. They get sick. Water heater goes out, whatever. And now they're doubting, oh, did I make the right move? Like, I gave up guaranteed income, even though it wasn't what I wanted or wasn't enough.
Yes.
And now I don't know if I'm going to have it. That's what the universe does, right? That's how it works. Is it's going to put things in your way that you have to overcome and push through to get through what it is, and that's one of the most misconceived ideas I think out there right now.
I love that you just said all of that, because it kind of goes back to that thought of, your parents are always like, you can go, you can do it, and then when you want to do it, they're like, you know.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? I mean, the enemy will even use people that love you. Honestly, he'll especially to poke holes to create doubt. I always find and I started to see he'd use the same people that I truly loved and respected to discourage me. And that's this interesting too. And I had to realize I have to shut that out. Because it's discouraging me from what I know that I'm being prompted to do. And so again, I think what parents do is, and I think we're all a little guilty, because I try to my husband and I, for instance, my daughter's like, I want to go live in California. The very thing he thinks is, a single girl living in California? That sounds horrible. That sounds like so dangerous. And I'm thinking, she's 21. She can do that. Like, she has the freedom to do that. She's an adult. But it's kind of, we put our own fears and we oppress. It's an oppression of own fear, of our own personal fear of like how this is out of my control. Again,
fear's a tool. Fear's a tool, and you got to use it, right? It
absolutely is. And what we have to do is go, and what God kind of implanted on me, my oldest daughter, I learned a lot about faith when she was growing up. I was married prior, and so I had to drop her off every other week with my ex, and she was still very young, and it was very hard on me because it's like there's fear attached to just letting your baby go all the time. And what God revealed to he spoke something so profound, and I think your listeners should hear this. He literally said, Brandie, just pray for her and that I'll protect her. I have a plan for her, and I love her more than you love her. And it's like, how can you love her, God, more than me? No. But the truth is, he does love all of our children even more than we do. And he loves all of us so greatly that if we can trust him over fear, over opinion, over really even reality, honestly, because the reality is, oh my gosh, you're leaving your 6-figure income. That's the reality. That looks terrifying.
You're leaving something most people are trying to attain.
That's right. And it's like how I had to start living not here, out here, above what you see. That's called real faith. Above what you see. I don't live here anymore. I don't live in this realm. I live in a supernatural place of vision and of faith. And again, without faith, we cannot be pleasing to God. It isn't faith when you got it all wrapped up. That's not faith. And so again, that's why I think this journey for me, it hasn't been I'm so smart. It has to be actually I'm so ill-equipped, and I'm so, let's say, I have insecurities and all the things that I'll go on a walk and say, God, I'm ill-equipped, and he'd go, you're right. You're absolutely right. And you know what? That's a great thing to know about yourself. It's a great thing to know that the whole world will tell you you're enough. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. But why aren't most people doing it? They don't believe that.
That's right.
And the truth is, we aren't enough. And if we were enough, we wouldn't need an awesome God to master our lives. And when we do give him that, we realize it's not my strength, it's not my wisdom, it's not my power, it's my submission to his that makes me a powerful human being. Where I have, again, I don't think it's about me, and I don't think I'm that great and that smart. I think he's everything good has been because I know my place here.
That's right. And what you focus on grows. So if you focus on all your problems, they grow, and if you focus on solutions to those problems, they grow. So it's amazing how the mind is your mind and your brain is just it's such a powerful muscle. It's such a powerful tool, and it literally makes this experience here a good one or a bad one. And that's how you control that, right? And it's and there's yes. and more importantly is your heart and your mind have to be connected. There's a connection between the two, and most people that are lost, there's just a disconnect right there. There's just a break in there, and they're searching for it. That's and that can be very painful for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. When we magnifying what's magnificent makes life so much better. It really does.
That's right.
It really does.
Well, look, I know that you have an incredibly busy schedule, and I have been keeping you on here for quite some time. Is there anything else, Brandie, besides, obviously, folks, she's on all of her all your social media is at Brandie Barclay, spelled IE, BRANDIE Barclay, BARCLAY, BrandieBarclay.com. Is there anything else that you would want to leave with everybody today? Any upcoming stuff you want to promote or anything like that?
Oh man. Well, you know what? Definitely if any of this sounded fun and interesting to you, the She's So Right show, check it out.
Absolutely.
It's a blast. I am a private certified life coach. If any of this resonated and you need to talk to somebody, that's kind of my main gig. That's what I do. And there's all kinds of cool events. If you're in Arizona, I'm opening for Terrence Williams on 9/11. That's going to be pretty fun and exciting.
Wow.
And yeah, super excited. I guess I'll have to be really funny that night. He's such a blast. But,
yeah, he is.
But no, Nick, you know what? This has been a blast. And really, if there's one last encouragement is that keep these things in your ears. You're doing the right thing. When you're doing things that you don't want to do, like folding laundry or driving down the street in traffic, the best thing you can do is fill your mind with goodness. So
that's right.
God bless you, Nick. God bless what you're doing. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So, and then if they wanted to contact you, Brandie, about working with you as a coach, or any of those things, and honestly, you guys, the She's So Right show, there's how can they find that? It's podcasting. It's streaming everywhere that you can find a podcast. It's also on the Patriot 960 AM. What's the URL that they can go check that out?
Oh God, well, she's so right show.com.
There it is.
And it really is everywhere. It's on iTunes, Spotify, we're on Frank's Beach, Rumble, YouTube. In fact, we have a new studio being built right now, so you'll be able to watch us goof off. So it's a blast. Look, we're gonna have you on, Nick. I think that's what we have to do.
I'm all in, baby. I'm all in.
Let's do it.
It'd be a great time. And check out BrandieBarclay.com. The Powersoul Experience, the ultimate happy hour, right? It's fantastic.
Margaritas, tacos, and encouragement. It's kind of like my favorite place.
It's fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, Brandie, thanks so much again for hanging with us today. Again, I know you have a crazy busy schedule, and we appreciate you hanging with us so much today. It
was my pleasure, my privilege. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, I look forward to hanging with you further. Folks,
heck yeah.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hitstreak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.